Welcome to the Curiosity Chamber.
There we go. All right, Dave Shamszad.
Hey, man.
Thanks for taking the time out of your day, man, to come and talk with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited to learn about your personal story, the journey of addiction. And it's like, although that type of stuff doesn't define you or define who we are, it's a giant part of our existence, of your existence. And
Yeah.
you've gone to do on something wonderful, post addiction. So I'm hoping to get to learn a little bit about you and pull some of that information out of you and your experiences.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right, man. So like, I'll start it this way, and just because of what you just said. So I haven't had a drink in 12 years, but
Jeez.
I think about it every single day.
Is that right?
That's how like big of that's just how big it is. That's how big being addicted to something is, and that's how big it is when it almost very nearly takes your whole life away. Is that like 12 years later, it can still be on the forefront of my mind every day.
So that was your drug of choice then, huh?
Yeah, it still is. I just stay away from it.
Right. Yeah, true. Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, yeah, and it's just like the amount of gratitude I feel every day for having turned the corner, because I almost didn't, but many different times almost didn't. Is just immense. Like, so right now I've got, I'll kind of start at the end of the story. Like, I've got a business that's, I started about 10 years ago that's been growing really well. We got like 50 employees now. We have a real estate management and investment company. I got a wife. I got a house. I got a 2-year-old boy. And like really, really happy, really, really fortunate though, because that the thing with like addiction, and if I didn't overcome that, like poof, like that whole picture I just painted isn't, it never was.
It's almost like waking up in an alternate universe.
100%. Like
right?
I'm the way I feel about my life now is like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm playing with house money. I got. I mean, I had to work extremely, extremely fucking hard to get to this point. But like, when you're kind of at rock bottom or below it, and you get to the spot I'm at now, it creates a lot of perspective for just like how many people struggle with addiction and mental illness, because there's usually a lot of correlation. And two, just like remembering that everything you have is a fucking blessing.
For sure. Yeah, man, because if you didn't work as hard as you did, you could still be in that same situation, man. Something woke your ass up. And that's kind of what I'm curious to get into, because
All right.
you have to have like this come to Jesus moment, It's like, fuck.
Yeah. Okay, but you asked for it though. Okay, I'm gonna remind you right now that you asked for it.
Most certainly did. It's recorded.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. So all right. So let me go to. I mean, I always loved drinking. Like, I always loved drinking. I remember like when I was 12, just the first time like I had alcohol in me, I felt like it had been fucking missing for my entire childhood from my body. Like, I remember how distinctly amazing I felt, so there was kind of like, it was there early on, but what happened was, like, when I was in my 20s, and I was a pretty happy kid. Like, in high school, I did really good. Went to a good college, went to Dartmouth College in New Hampshire, and things were like looking very bright, right? But what happened is, like, when I was around like 2021, I started having mood swings that were, I had no idea what was going on. They started getting like they started kind of small, but just feeling like, not like I woke up on the wrong side of bed, but that like I was like, I was destined to be there forever. Like, it was very feeling depressed makes trivializes a little bit. Like it was very new. It was a scary feeling.
So did
And
you notice that immediately upon when you were going through it, or is this more of like you realize it retrospect?
no, like I would go to bed feeling one way, and I would wake up feeling like I was glued to my bed, like really physically couldn't move, couldn't
Did
like
you
do
did you
simple
like
stuff.
contribute that to anything though? Like, oh man, I drank too much, or like, not like the
No, it's
mental
just
issue, but you were like putting a value on it.
no, I figured out what it was later.
Right. But
So
not in the moment.
no, like I didn't, this is a while ago, and I mean, if I knew anything about mental illnesses, then like I don't remember what it was. I don't know that like we had the same vocabulary for it that we do now, and it certainly wasn't like in a kind of like jock college frat boy culture, like not really talking about like, man, I feel fucking sad today, Jay. I
Yeah,
feel,
get the fuck out of here with that.
hey, bro, I feel fucking, I'm glum, Jay. Can we talk like that? That's not really how we were kind of set up to deal with stuff. So I just had like weird these mood swings, and they got the only thing that I could do. And then I'd have mood swings where I'd feel fucking fantastic. 2 days after feeling like I was hard to even brush my teeth,
Yeah.
um, I was on top of the world. Like,
Interesting.
yeah, and I honestly just started to think like I'm a little weird. Maybe I'm going a little crazy. Something's different about me, but I didn't want to think about it in any kind of way. So like the thing I got very good at doing was just, I drank when I felt a certain way. That was it. Like that was a very easy way for me to kind of um, just feel a little bit normal again, at least for the night, and hope when I woke up I felt better. I
All right,
got
so let's
even
say you're
bigger.
having a mood swing and you feel depressed as fuck, and then you start drinking. Does
Yeah.
that is that gasoline to the fire? Like you're even more depressed, or did you feel better?
No, you feel you feel better, for the rest of the night for a
Damn.
few hours.
Yeah.
But I mean, alcohol is a depressant. Like literally drains your mind of the chemical that you need to feel happy. So you wake up, yeah, you're waking up hungover, but it's just even worse. You almost feel like a desperation. But then you drink again. And that's the cycle. So I'm in my early 20s, and I'm having these mood swings. I'm not really sure why. I eventually graduated, and I'm working, but I'm still having these mood swings. And like now, all of a sudden, I'm depressed for like 2 weeks at a time. It's not just like,
Oh man.
yeah, it gets. The thing about like a depressive episode is like,
Yeah, I was gonna have you. I was gonna ask if you can kind of articulate it as best as you can, because it's really hard to pinpoint it for people that don't have depression or ever gone through it.
totally.
You know,
If you don't have any experience with it, or haven't like really tried to understand it, it just sounds like, well, this dude just woke up on the wrong side of bed. Like, what's
for
the big
sure.
deal? And
Yeah,
like,
just snap out of it.
snap, just snap out of it. That's how it sounds. The way I would articulate it is, imagine imagine waking up and it's the worst day of your life, and in that moment you truly don't believe that it will ever end, that it didn't have a beginning, a middle, or an end, that it is the way you're going to feel for the rest of time. Imagine having that weight on you, and it's very scary. It's very scary to feel like the simplest tasks. I mean, taking a shower would feel like, how could I possibly do that? That's the hardest thing I could possibly do. How am I going to put one foot in front of the other and take a fucking shower?
Yeah,
Like,
it's like what's the point? What the fuck's the point?
and it's hard for people to understand that for sure, but it's very real, and it's super scary. And you start to think like, and I started to think this like very, very clearly, as these episodes started getting longer. You start thinking, I'm never going to feel better, and if I'm never going to feel better, you start to wonder if maybe it'd be better not to feel at all.
Right.
Would
Right.
it be better to not be alive than to pretend than to feel this way forever? Because you actually think it's not going to get better, even if it's happened before. You know, I'd already had episodes, plenty of them, but in the middle of each one, you lose all sight of having done this before and feeling like, okay, I just got to wait this out. Like that's all out the window. It just feels
That's a
like you're
vicious
drowning.
cycle, man. That is a
Yeah,
vicious cycle because you got no one to talk to. You have no outlet, and then like your only outlet
yeah,
is drinking. But when you drink, you feel like shit even more the next day, and it's just like,
yeah.
what
And,
do
and
I even want to
I
fucking
wasn't
feel?
talking to anybody.
Yeah.
And then I'd have these episodes where I was again like through the roof. I didn't need to sleep. I was excited all the time. I was hyperactive. I was, you couldn't get me to shut up. Like I would stay up all night chatting your ear off. I spent all my money, these super crazy, reckless behaviors. I'd worked like crazy. Like I worked at a residential facility for at-risk kids. So it was like a 24/7 place. We lived there with them, and I was great at it because I could literally stay up all night. I could deal with a fight breaking out at 2 a.m, which
Without
happened all
drugs, you
the
were
time.
just this is just how you're wired.
I was completely manic. Yeah, it was all it was. Well, there was a lot of coffee and nicotine mixed uh, in the mix there. But other than that, no, man. And then I would crash, and I would be back to feeling the way I mentioned, before, just super beyond depressed. And I was going back and forth in this cycle for like, I don't know, like a year and a half of it getting really bad. And then I had, dude, I was like, for 2 weeks, I was just up straight. I had been um, having a hard, like sleeping a couple hours a night, working nonstop. And I still, even at the end of those 2 weeks, I just felt like my heart was racing. Like I couldn't extinguish all the energy I had. So on my first day off of work, I thought to myself, I don't know why, but I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna do a 50-mile bike ride, and then when I'm done with the bike ride,
God damn.
I'm gonna run 13 miles. I'm gonna do a half
What?
marathon.
You're gonna do an Iron Man in your spare time?
Yeah, basically, and that like that wasn't shit that I did. Like I was what I mean, I was in okay shape, but it wasn't like I just go rip off a 50-mile bike ride and run 13. That was like it was just a weird idea that I had that I thought could finally help me get some sleep. So I did that, and I remember this was a long time ago, but I'll just never forget this. I finished the run, and I remember thinking, "Oh man, this is great! Like I finally feel like I got rid of all this energy. My mind is kind of quiet. It's not racing and telling me like crazy ass thoughts. Um, I could just kind of go to bed." And I did. And then, like I said, when you're in a depressive episode, you just truly believe that it is going to be the way you feel for the rest of your life. And I don't know how else to say it. So when I woke up that next morning, it was like it was the worst day of my life. I had
After
never,
that run?
yeah. The next morning, I woke up and I'd never been more depressed than I had been at that point. This was the worst day of my life, and I'd been through
Jesus.
depressive episodes, but within like a couple of minutes, I remember thinking I've never felt anything like this before, and like within 5 minutes, I'm in tears. Like it was crazy how quickly my mind just completely turned on itself.
God damn, man.
So I go and I'm like, I can't be alone because like the things I'm thinking are scary. Like I'm thinking I want to die. I'm thinking for real, big time. I don't want to be here. So I'm gonna go find someone and have them just, I don't know, just be near me so I distract me or whatever. Um, so I go and I try to find my boss, and my boss sees me, and I'm tearing up, and he's like, "Hang on," like he knows something's up. He's like, "I'm gonna go get the counselor because we're at this place where the counselor works with the kids," and I'm like, I couldn't sit still, so I didn't wait for them, and I went to some like um, part of the facility where nobody was, where it was kind of like where we would go and smoke or drink coffee or whatever on our breaks. So I'm there, and the only thing that makes sense to me right then is like, I, the only way I can feel better right now is if I bleed this out. I literally thought that if I cut my wrist, I could bleed out the pain.
God
And
damn, man.
I was like obsessed. I was obsessed, fixated on this. So I just got down on my knees, and we always had a knife on us because it was like an outdoor. Um, we did a lot of recreational shit, and I opened that knife and it was like click, and I pressed down and just sort of pressed harder and started watching, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, that guy, the counselor, his name's Mike. Mike, who I'll say it now and 50 years from now, Mike saved my fucking life. And so Mike tackles me and pulls me to the ground. And that's the last thing I remember. I was completely out cold. And then I woke up in a psychiatric hospital in Rhode
So you
Island.
actually went through with it. You actually put the knife to your wrist and cut.
No, he literally tackled me from behind before this knife was cutting through my wrist. I
But
mean,
you were
like I
set on
said,
it. You were about to do it.
yeah. I
Yeah.
believed that it was the only way that I was going to believe it was the only option because I felt so bad and was so scared that that was the only way out. And he, like I said, man, like Mike saved my fucking life, and
Yeah.
he
Shout out
took
to
me to
Mike.
this. Yeah, there's no doubt. And he took me to a psychiatric hospital. I spent 2 weeks there, and within a couple of days, I'm all like doped up and on all kinds of medication, talking to doctors every day, and they're like, yeah, you based on these symptoms, like you have bipolar disorder. It's alternating phases of mania and depression. And I was there for 2 weeks and like I did what I had to do and like went to the groups and talked to the doctors and I took the prescriptions that they gave me. But at the end of it, like I was out and the first thing I fucking thought when I woke up there was, oh man, I hope no one finds out. Like
That's such a crazy
I
thought,
it's a
right?
crazy thought, dude. Like I just had the worst day of my life, and I thought my first thing was, oh, what if someone finds out? And it's like how that of all the insane shit, that's the most insane thing I thought in all of this.
Yeah, that kind of puts in perspective though, like some of the shit that some guys go through, man. Like there's no one to talk to. Like people sometimes see you as a bitch if you bring emotional shit up like that. Like people
Oh,
will call
for
you
sure.
bitch made, you know?
Oh, there's no doubt, dude. And that's why at this point in time, I hadn't talked to my parents. Like I hadn't told my girlfriend I was seeing someone this whole time, and like I would literally sit next to her on the couch or on a walk or whatever. Think about killing myself. Think about how that is like maybe the best thing for me, without her having a clue. Like it was
And you were
crazy
in your
because
20s?
yeah, it's in my early 20s, and
Yeah.
it's like I didn't have the vocabulary to. There wasn't the familiarity with mental illness. There wasn't like there probably were resources, but it's kind of like not to paint with too broad a brush, but like young male American culture like doesn't really make a lot of space um, for any perception of weakness or even like the act of being vulnerable. And
Exactly.
so
Yeah, dude. That's why I wanted to ask what your age was, because that age group right there that you're going through this shit at is just like that. You're helpless at that point because all your friends they're fucking savages at that age. They're
yeah,
savages.
we were, and the fucked up thing is that like not everyone was going through like what I just described, but like there's a lot of fucking sadness. There's a lot of despair. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of things that everybody probably should have talked about and would have made their life a little bit better or a
Right.
lot better.
Yeah.
So I've got this girlfriend, and I'm literally hoping that she doesn't hear that I'm in the hospital and come visit me. That's where I'm at, and um, she does. Like my boss told her, and she did show up, and it was the hardest thing. I couldn't talk. I was so medicated that I don't know what I could have even said, but she was just like, you don't need to say anything. Like, I'll just be here with you for this visiting hour, and that's that. And when I got out, it was like, un- unfortunately, like my worser instincts prevailed, and it was like, okay, what do I know at this point? Like, I got some medication, and I'm going to take it. Okay, cool. They told me to get a therapist. Like, no. They told me to stay away from drugs and alcohol because those can help trigger episodes. Like, no, I just didn't really accept the fact that I was ill and that I had this disorder. And I just did what I had learned to do in college, which was just to drink when I felt a certain way. I would drink when I was depressed. I drank when I felt manic. It made it extremely fucking fun. And so it got to the point like very quickly where I just drank all the time. Like in any setting, in any way I felt it was the right medicine for me. So that like I worked there, and after that all happened, we about 4 or 5 or 6 months after that we moved, and she came with me. We moved to California, and I mean, if you're drinking and having a hard time staying away from drugs and alcohol, anyways, like moving to a big metro area of San Francisco or New York or whatever, like it might not be the best thing,
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, it's just so I'm like,
But you're
now
not
we're
thinking
going
about that. That's not what the fuck you're thinking about at all. You're not thinking rationally like that.
no. So we're like, I'm going out a lot, going out even more now, and it gets to the point of like, okay, well, I'm not just drinking like Friday, Saturday. I'm drinking Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday, and all of a sudden I'm drinking every single night, and all of a sudden I'm drinking like no matter what I'm doing. It's not even, I'm not going out. It's I could just drink glasses of whiskey on Tuesday at home, watching basketball, and then I'm at work and I'm like, I can't wait to drink. It's like, oh, it's 3 o'clock. Like I gotta get some in me soon. And then you
How much
start doing.
would you say you're drinking?
Um, I would drink like I drank so fucking much, dude. I drank an amount that's like just it's like scary to even think about it now. I don't know. I mean, I remember nights where I kind of would look back and um, be like, I had like dozens of drinks. Like I might have had like 30 beers last night, or I might have had like a fifth of whiskey. I like you start to get such a tolerance
I
that,
was gonna say, yeah, you build up this tolerance and it just goes down
oh
like
yeah,
nothing.
yeah, it's if I put that to my lips right now, like that would kill most people.
Oh
Um,
fuck yeah, yeah.
and but you like I'm relatively bigger. I'm drinking every night. Like, yeah, you'll build up a tolerance to that. And then just like over time, like either because of like the medication that either the nature of bipolar disorder, the medication that I was taking, just things started to change. Just the evolving addiction to alcohol, things just started to change. And like I I got more and more aggressive. I got more and more angry. Like I became like a pretty violent drunk, a pretty angry drunk. Definitely like belligerent's kind of an understatement. I started fighting. I just like often would get in conflicts with people, and then often get into physical confrontations with people.
Yeah.
Um, I got arrested, and then I got arrested again. I got arrested 3 times in like a year, um, all for fighting. It was always the same shit. And the last time I got arrested, I remember, and you'd think like, well, when's this dude going to hit rock bottom? Like, how has he not had his come to Jesus moment yet when he's telling me about his third fucking arrest? But I don't know. Like, I remember the last time I got arrested, and I got into a fight outside of some bar, and it was like, that was awful, dude. It was my friend's engagement party, so it was
Oh
like
hell no.
it was like supposed to be like this nice thing, and
Yeah.
so people were kind of dressed up, and like it wasn't even just like homies, like there was like parents and adults there, and
Real quick before you keep going on, at this moment, this exact moment right now, are people already aware of your behavior like
yeah,
prior to this moment?
oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's like the number of people around me started to shrink. Like I was on an island,
Gotcha.
and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
water was getting closer and closer to my feet. Is how I think about it. My girlfriend's still with me, but like she's with me because she knows the truth, and she knows that I'm struggling with a mental illness, and her patience is running really thin. I mean, her patience was out at this point, and after this last night, so we're at this, I fortunately a few people still invited me to do stuff. I'm at this party, and I get in a fight with this guy that I picked a fight with that I didn't like him. I probably couldn't wait to pick a fight with this guy. End up outside on the street. I remember the cops jumping on me and cuffing me on the sidewalk. And at this point, there's probably like 100 people outside. There's probably like 50 people I know and 50 strangers, and they're all like watching me get dragged like a fucking, bad dog into a cage, in the back of this squad car. And I'm just like, just sad. I'm like, I'm in a heap on the concrete with cops on top of me, and these are people that I went to college with, was on a good track with, and they're now seeing me like just shaking their head.
Did you feel remorse or guilt at that time or no?
No, not at that time.
Right. Okay.
It was. Yeah, I felt super shitty. Like I fucked up your thing again. Like I fuck up everything when I go out. But it was more like you're like it's more like, well, let me just like see how fucking bad this night can get. You're like, I was pretty deteriorated at that point. I pretty much resigned to like, you start to rely on alcohol in a way where you're like, you know what? If people don't understand, like alcohol is more loyal to me than people are. And that's it's a better partner to me than people are. And that sounds like wild to say, but I really believe, like, I almost felt in a way like I'd figured out a secret. Like alcohol solves a lot of my problems, and people just don't understand that.
Yeah, and the fucked up thing is probably the mindset is like, why would I stop this? Why the fuck would I stop drinking?
Oh, absolutely, dude.
Right.
Alcohol could never get embarrassed of me. It couldn't judge me. It couldn't abandon me. I mean, it was like a part of me. And no, so I felt remorse and I felt bad, but I also felt like, okay, well, fuck it, So I went to jail that night. It was the third time I've been in jail, and again within like a year. And I don't know. I'm like, at this point, who fucking cares? Like, let's see how shitty things can get. I pick a fight with 3 guys in jail.
Shit! Damn! You're going for it.
Yeah, it was sad, dude. I'm like, well, I'm here, and like, I just want to see how much pain I can inflict on myself at this point, and on somebody else. So there was 3 guys in there that clearly were like, I don't know, they were talking shit to some kid, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna stick up for this kid, and I'm gonna call these guys out. And I just kept going at them. Like they probably were looking at me like, you look fucking insane, dude. We're not scared of you, but we don't really want to fuck with you. But I just kept going at them, and like sooner or later, one of them came up and threw a punch, like split my eye open, and then I went, and for about, I don't know, probably only a minute or two, just swinging and kicking as much as I could until the cops came in and they ripped me out of the cell and put me in another one. And it's like 5 a.m, and I'm like, yet again, like, girlfriend doesn't know where I am, and I've fucked up my friend's engagement party, and like eventually I get home, and at that point she was like, I can't fucking watch this anymore. I can't not know where you are at night. I can't, like, I love you and support you, but I'll be there for you, but I can't be there with you, and yeah, that was like, I thought that was the end for me. I'm like, good. I actually, it was weird. It's like, I felt like a little bit of relief for her. I almost felt like, that's good. Like, no one should have to be around for this. Let me just, peel like my last finger off the ledge here, and let me just kind of float and go away.
Right. Let me not take you with me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And then, so do you want to know what the moment was, like the actual come to Jesus moment, as you put it? Because it wasn't even that.
Yeah, bro, I'm hanging on the edge of my chair. I mean, Jesus, what was it? Damn.
It should have been any of these fucking things, and it wasn't. And I'm like, a few more weeks go by, and I'm alone, and I'm starting to feel more and more comfortable with the idea that like I alcohol will be my partner and until I go, and I don't really care about anything else anymore. I'm like barely making any money, like doing a few hours here and there to I was an independent contractor, so it was like, you know, you put in time and you make a little money, and if that's all you do, it's all you do. So I was paying bills, and it was it got to the point where, you know, I was drinking by myself a lot. There wasn't a lot of people that were, especially after that one night, there wasn't a lot of people that were trying to kick it. And so I'm like, I'm drinking by myself a lot. There's one night, fuck man, when you start like, man, when you're drinking that much, like you start to blacken out gets a little different. Like, you know, most people when they say they black out, like it's kind of figuratively, you know, like you still remember some things, like
Right.
you remember you got a fucking burger at a place, and then you took a cab, and you're like, oh, then we saw Jay at the place, and then I went, you know, and you kind of remember shit.
Yeah, it's like little
But
snapshots.
you get little snapshots, and all of a sudden you piece your night together, and you figure out that you're like, okay, great, you know, I made it. But it gets different when you're drinking, when you are drinking every single day and you're drinking a lot. It's almost like pages torn out of a book. You really start to wake up not having any of those shreds of information. So I went out one night, and I remember just feeling like I'm done at this point. I want to see how low. I want to really find out how low I can go. I'm going to drown in a sea of alcohol tonight, and just see how deep it goes. And I remember this place. I still remember this fucking place. And I remember the last thing I remember was having a cigarette outside, and that's it. And 8 hours later or 10 hours later or whatever, I woke up in my apartment, and you know, when you wake up and you kind of start to figure out what's going on, you take an inventory of your body and seeing if you have your shit and your keys and everything. And I have like blood on me, and I've got like a huge fucking lump on my head, and I look down and I've got like bruises on my arms, and I've got dried blood on my face and on my clothes, and I have no fucking idea. I'm like, I could have fallen down a set of stairs. I could have gotten my ass kicked again. I have no idea. And then I'm starting to wonder, like, where was I? Where did I go? How the fuck did I get home? Sorry, sorry about the profanity, Jay. The language is, yeah, sorry about that. But
No, don't worry about it. Rest yourself, dude.
The swear jar is completely fucked at this point.
Oh, we're gonna owe about $2,000 after the end of this one.
Yeah, that's right.
Too. It's all good.
So, and I'm starting to wonder, like, did I fucking drive home? I mean, I've drove drunk all the time. I tell you straight up, like, I did that all the time. But I had never driven drunk where I literally couldn't remember doing it. And so I go outside and I start to like, kind of like wander around the neighborhood, just hoping to God I don't find my fucking car. And so I go like one block and then the next, and on the third block I see my bumper, you know, on all the parallel parked cars, and I'm like, fuck. I drove this fucking car home, and I go to the car, and like there's blood on the handle and on the door and on the inside, and like and now I'm like panicking, and I'm now I have no idea. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's my blood, and I hope to fucking God it is. And I'm getting kind of scared, so I go inside, and I like went online, and I was looking to see if there was a hit and run that had been
Holy
reported.
shit, man!
I had no idea.
Trying to solve a fucking riddle.
Yeah, it was like terrifying. It was terrifying. And so I'm by myself. I'm in my apartment, and I have no idea why there's blood all over me. For the 1,000th time, I've gone out and just gotten completely out of control. And the thing that it was, and I don't know how in the world well, I do know how it took me so long to figure it out, because we fucking twist our minds and lie to ourselves and able to keep drinking or keep using or keep doing whatever. But it wasn't until that point when I realized, like, Dave, dude, this isn't about you, man. Like you want to destroy yourself, fine. But you're gonna go out in your fucking car and you're gonna destroy someone else's life, dude. You're gonna
Yeah.
drive across the city like that and just wipe someone out and have their parents get that phone call that they got hit by a drunk driver? Are you out of your fucking mind? And obviously, like that should have been apparent so many times before, but it just wasn't because I'm like, no, this is okay. Like, I got this under control. I mean, imagine that. Imagine like the lifestyle I just described to you, but in the middle of all of it, I actually believed like somehow I had it under control. That's addiction, dude. You will lie to yourself till
Yeah.
till
You
the dying,
justify it any way of the
any
imagination.
kind of way, any
Anyway.
kind of way. And that was it. And it was very, very, very clear at that moment that this was different. And I didn't know at that moment what was going to happen. I didn't know that was the last drink I ever had, by the way.
Whoa.
I didn't know that was going to be the case, but I knew right then, like, the situation's got to change. And I called my partner, and you'll see why she's still in this story. Now, keep in mind, she's watched this from the beginning. She's seen a decade of this. This all went on. This is 10 years from when she met me and I went to a hospital, in a psychiatric hospital in Rhode Island. 10 years later, just about. And I'm like, look, I need you to give me one more chance. This is different. Like, I swear to fucking God, this is different. Don't give up on me, please. And she said, okay. And now, and she's the second person that saved my life. And she said, okay. And she checked me into, she took me to a chemical dependency recovery program, a CDRP. And I met it's got set up with a counselor there. And I talked to this counselor and told her, man, I kind of just, like, she just saw me. I looked the way I described, and told her what had just happened to me over the past few days, and told her what the last 10 years of my life had looked like, all in a 15-minute introduction. And dude, she told me I had just met this woman for the first time in my life, and told her 15 minutes of my story, and she told me straight up, she said, "You're gonna die. You're not surviving this." She just looked at me straight in the eye and said, "You are not going to survive." And I'm like,
That's heavy.
dude, it gives me chills just remembering it. And I believed it. Like, she said it, she knew what she was talking about. And
Yeah.
she's like, it might be all at once, on a night like Saturday, or it might just be that you wither away and you die in, 10 or 20 years or whatever. But like, you don't survive this. And that's all there is to it. And you need to give yourself 30 days, not a drop. And I think she knew when she said 30 days, that's not really what she meant. She probably knew I should never drink again, but you can't really tell someone that. And so she gave me something that she thought, what's the most I can get this guy to commit to? Because he seems tough. He seems like he wants to be here. He seems resilient. You need to give me 30 days, is what she told me. And I believed that I could. And I said, okay. And I didn't have any kind of plan. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do that. But the one thing that, I in every way I had let people down around me, and I had been let myself down. But one thing that I'd always been is a good friend, and I'd always been a person of my word, and I'd always been a good teammate. And so I had this idea, and this is literally like I'm 2 days away from that night, and I'm like, I know I will let myself down, but I can't let my partner down, and I can't let my family and my friends and my community down, and like whoever's still around me, I can't let them down. And so if I make the promise to them, if I make the promise to them, I think I have a chance at doing this. But if I keep it a secret that I'm trying to do this, it doesn't happen. So I fucking sat down and I wrote an email, 48 hours later, after waking up that morning, I wrote an email, and just every name I could find, I put every email address I had, and I'm just like, I woke up a couple days ago with blood all over me, and it's not the first time this has happened. And you all know that, um, you all know something's wrong, and I need to not have a drop of alcohol in me, and I need your help in any way you're still willing to give me. And it might be for 6 months, it might be for a year, it might be forever. I actually wrote that after a decade of drinking fucking incessantly. I wrote, it might be forever, because I knew if I put my fucking word out there, like, I knew it would give me strength. I didn't know how I would ever possibly do that, but I know if I committed to it and I made a promise that it would give me strength. And I hit fucking send before I could, back down. And shit, man, that was 12 years ago.
Damn, man. Yeah, I just want to take a second, just spend a second with you, thinking about that. I mean, geez, man.
It was wild.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's personal.
That's
a
it.
lot of
That's the
experience.
real deal.
Yeah.
I told you, man. I'm like, well, you wanted to know what happened.
You're right. I did. And I appreciate you for being so open. That means a lot. To come on here and tell that to a complete stranger. So thank you so much for doing that, man.
The reason I do it is because anybody who fucking hears me right now, who's listening to this, someone who's there, someone that's gonna be there. I want this message to reach me. I wish it had reached me 20 years ago, before it gets to this point. There's someone who's struggling with mental illness. 1 in 5 people struggle with mental illness, and about half of them don't get treatment. Half of people with mental illnesses literally never get treatment, and half of them also self-medicate. It's probably the same fucking half.
Literally going through it right now with a family member.
There you go, man. Sorry to hear it.
He was diagnosed bipolar. He went to rehab a couple months ago. He's going through a divorce. He got out of rehab and he started hitting the bottle hard, and he hasn't stopped. He's in this vicious cycle. He sends me nasty text messages, and then a couple days later, like a week later, sends me nice text messages. So everything that you were just describing is basically going on in my life right now with a family member, and I'm living it firsthand. So to hear your story, to see like what it can turn into if not, caught and taken care of, I just don't know how to go about it. So I think you might be a perfect person to ask. Obviously, like what steps should I, like, is there anything I can do for him, or like is this something that you have to do on your own?
No, that's the question, dude. I mean, and I wish I knew the answer. I don't think there is an answer. And every situation is so entirely different. So I'd be cautious to not like give advice because it's so delicate. But here's what I can say for me. Like, there's no doubt about it. You already know this. Like, you try to tell someone who's in the state, that you just described him, the amount of defensiveness, reactiveness, hatred for the person that, might be trying to get in between them and their fix is intense, that. And so it's very easy to avoid it, and people you don't really want to confront that because it can be explosive. It might be easier just to avoid it. And that's the skill that we develop. Like, you get a skill, you make it extremely difficult and uncomfortable for people to confront you when you have a behavior that you don't want to change, and an addiction that you don't want to give up. Anybody that gets near that, it's like touching an electric fence. And so you just teach people around you not to touch it, So I don't know. I mean, what worked for me, like that shouldn't be it. It shouldn't be like getting to, these rock bottom inflection points. I like to think that, it's probably not going to always be. It's probably not always going to be that. I think there's a pathway where if more people have a steady drip of support on a daily basis, right? Like if if these conversations are more frequent, if they're more open, if there's more of a dialogue around mental health and addiction, and the correlation between the two, and understanding dual diagnosis, like the incidence of addiction and mental illness is it's unsurprisingly corollary. Go figure. For the exact same reason I described from 20 years ago, is I'm scared. My mind is turning on itself. I don't know what to do, but I know how to drink and I have access to it. So the more that we're talking about this, the more that we are like, if it's just one person in his life telling him, hey man, you got to cut the shit out, it's pretty easy to just like cut that person off, but if it's by committee, if it's by his whole support system, and maybe depends on who it is. Maybe it's sort of forceful, maybe it's not, maybe it's in the form of an intervention, maybe it's just everybody reminding every day in a little drip. Who knows? I think it depends on who the person is. But I think the bigger the support system and the more people contributing to the conversation is what makes the key difference. And I think that's why I'm talking about it. I just want to be like one more voice out there in the world that aids in these conversations with people. Because if it's just you, this might be your boy. Like if it's just you, he might cut you off if you push too hard on it. And it's just like, I don't know him, and I might be right or wrong there, but like there's a good chance of that. But if it's you and his other friends and his sister and his parents and the bigger community around him, giving him a steady drip of support in the form of accountability, but also in the form of understanding and empathy and perhaps resource. I think that's what gets it done, honestly.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, because I think it was just me for quite some time, and it's enduring, man. It's like it's an endurance race, because I was putting a lot of effort into it. I'm like, man, like you have to stop drinking. I mean, what's wrong. You went to rehab. You've been diagnosed. I mean, the steps you have to take, and I'm here to help you. So I actually got him a job, and then he didn't show up the first day, which made me look horrible. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, man. So that was like one of my last straws, dude,
Yeah.
was that right there. And then he came at me with some nasty words.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's complex, because at the same time, I have to worry about my well-being as well. It sounds selfish, but I really do. And I see this as like, some
No,
people are
100%.
vampires out there that will just drain you. And if you drain me, I can't be I have a kid. Like, I can't have this shit constantly on my mind, worrying about if you are going to kill yourself when you tell me every single day. Like that's a huge weight on my shoulders. What the fuck am I supposed to do? I
No,
told
and
your
you don't
dad.
have
I
to,
tell
and
your
you don't have
family.
to accept that. You don't have to wear to carry that burden. No way, no chance. And that's where boundaries come into play. Like everybody in his life has the absolute right to keep their boundaries firm, to allow him to sort of just ebb and flow with his rage or his his anger, his intoxication, whatever he's doing up and down on you and around you that's not actually helping him. I mean, it might be giving him an outlet to dump his shit on, but like, that's passive, and that's probably enabling him, right? That doesn't really help. And it's a drain on you. Like you said, it's just an energy suck right out of you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Were you a negative person when you were going through your shit?
Um, yeah, I think I was pretty tough to deal with, man.
Yeah.
I So when I stopped drinking, like you just have to relearn. You just have to relearn everything, and it was like, I had no idea how to go watch the Super Bowl without drinking, to go to a restaurant without drinking. Like I was used to sneaking alcohol into restaurants and then buying alcohol at the same restaurant. Like you have to relearn how to do everything, and it was really hard. And I was incredibly agitated, extremely irritable. I've been taking mood stabilizers and antidepressants this whole time, and now I'm relying on them and them only to help manage an illness, and I don't have the option of like, oh well, I'm feeling off today anyways. Like I'm gonna go pour myself a Jack, um, or like, take some Vicodin. You know, it was like, no, I really gotta like, I gotta fight through this, and I need to like get therapy, and I need to like regularly see the psychiatrist. I need to actually do like some of the work to take care of myself. Because at this point, I'm like, I'm not drinking, but I've had bipolar disorder, and I haven't fucking done anything about it to really help myself, other than take my medicine, which is huge. But there's a lot of work to do to learn how to manage your emotional response to stuff, to learn how to cognitive behavioral therapy, to have an understanding of what your mind is doing and what to do when you start to spiral. I didn't know any of that stuff. So I got mad, I got scared, I got angry, I got depressed. Um, yeah, but it gets better, and that's the other thing. So like, okay, cool. So now I'm not drinking, and I'm trying to get things better, and um, all of a sudden, like good shit starts to happen, right? So like that that girlfriend who's been in this story, who had to go through that shit, like she's still there, and all of a sudden it was like we met again for the first time. Like I swear to God, it was like I got to fall in love again, because I was myself. I was like I was back, the better parts of me.
Yeah,
And
that
so,
filter's off. It's just you now.
yeah. And so it was like we began our relationship over again. And I'm like, I have my real estate license, and I'd been trying to cobble together a fucking, enough money for bills. And all of a sudden now it's like, oh shit, I'm like sleeping every night, and like coming into work the next day and not completely blasted, or
Yeah.
thinking about, when's the soonest I can get out of here. And I'm like getting kind of good at my job, and I'm like closing a couple deals, and
I
like,
think
holy
that's a
shit.
huge thing, dude. Like a little momentum and some confidence. That
Yes.
shit,
Yeah.
that shit for me, especially. I'm sure, and the
Hmm.
way you're saying, yeah, that shit's important, man.
Oh, dude. So, and that, of all the stuff that got me through it, that of all the stuff that kept me, um, on the wagon, so to speak, it wasn't like, it wasn't the meetings. It wasn't like, going to the gym instead of going out to the bars. Like all that stuff was an ingredient, but the thing that kept me going was I just call them green lights. It was the successes. It was
Yeah,
all the times when like, oh my God, now that I'm not drinking and I'm taking care of myself,
yeah,
I have a really wonderful relationship, and I
yeah,
love to talk to this girl and not feel ashamed of myself. What a fucking treat! I love to go and get work done, and like, I'm making some money now. This is fucking incredible. It's like I was getting shit done, and I was feeling good about myself, and I'm like, well, I don't want to mess that up. So let me just keep this streak going. And if you like, if you just build on top of that, and you're like, okay, taking care of myself, taking care of my mental health, not being addicted to drugs and alcohol, are helping me create these positive outcomes and these green lights. And you let that compound on itself over a decade, like holy shit. And you could have, I mean, we could have whatever you want. Like, it doesn't mean you need to start a business. It's that career you wanted to have, that that passion you wanted to pursue, that project. It's your mind and your body, uninhibited by all the other limits that you're putting on it, getting to do whatever it is that it does best. And like our minds, when they're not impaired,
yeah.
are they're fucking amazing, dude. They're creative, they're intelligent, they're all these things, and like we're just usually in the way of it. And so seeing what I could do sober, um, still learning how to take care of myself, but taking care of myself a lot better. That's really what kept me going, because all of a sudden I was getting shit done.
Right. So the way I see it too is you lived that detrimental experience, and now you like that's a part of you. You can go back in your mind and think about how shitty things were, which you can use as fuel to better yourself. And it also makes you more empathetic toward people. If you see some people going through some shit, feel like people that have a past like yours, like mine, we
Mm-hmm.
we understand what like it feels like to be at fucking ground zero,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just I wish maybe I don't wish, but I want people to know what it feels like, but I don't want people to have to go through like how life tearing it can be, just tear apart everything, and it's so fucked up. But that gives you motivation. I would rather have the addiction mechanism that's inside of me live
Mhm.
there, but I'm able to channel it and contain it, instead of
Yeah.
being completely zonked out and lazy and just,
Hmm.
lifeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I wasn't always planning on like talking about this stuff. Like this was not the plan. My plan was to move on, and like within a year or two, I'd gotten married, right? And so,
Mhm.
to the same person that had like been fucking literally like in the trenches with me. And then like, I don't know, a year or so after that or whatever it was, I started a business, and that business is now like, we're doing great. We have a team of like 50 people, and we're doing awesome stuff. And I, I, what could be better, right? I'm like, I'm healthy, and I've got a family, and then I had a kid, and like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what could be better? And at some point, it dawned on me, like, the thing that could be better is that, like, if I could somehow find that person, like that guy or that girl who is at the fork in the road, you
Mhm.
know, and struggling with mental health, struggling with addiction, has a bright future in front of them, or like a very, very dark one, and connect with them and like impart any of what I've learned and show them that, like, show myself drinking every single day, feeling like he didn't want to be alive, showing that person like, dude, you know what? In 10 years, you're gonna run a business, you're gonna have a family, you're gonna have a house, you're gonna have fucking dogs. That's gonna happen. That can happen. I wouldn't have believed it, but like, I want to make sure that people know that there's, not only is there hope, like, it's not even just like, okay, you can get medicated, and you can stay off, drugs and alcohol. No, it's not even like, it doesn't stop there. Like, that's just the beginning. That was the beginning for me. After that, it's like you have your whole life back. You have every faculty and bit of potential, that we get as human beings, and you have access to it now. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
That's what I want to try to show people. Not that what I've done is necessarily, incredible or amazing, but like, I've gotten some nice accomplishments made, and I think that they're things that, if I had looked into the future, I just wouldn't have possibly believed that any of this could happen. And so anybody right now who's thinking like, I'm down and out, like, I don't really have my hope for the future is extremely low. That doesn't have to be the way.
Right. Well, for you now, it's maintaining. It's maintaining and
Yeah.
succeeding, and kind of like, what's next? What's next out there? What can you surpass?
Yeah, and like, maintaining is not easy at all. Like, and I don't want to make it sound easy. Like, I have no idea how I haven't had a drink in 12 years, dude. Like, that shit blows my mind every time I think about it. Every time I see somebody drink, I
Yeah.
just stare at it like, you know, I do. Like, it doesn't. It'll never not have that power over me. Like, there's no doubt about it. And so it is super hard. But like, if you just take the approach of like, in 10 years, I want to be someone, or just in a year, I want to be the kind of person that hasn't had a drink in a year. I want to be the kind of person that doesn't drink. And you just say like, okay, what's all the shit I need to do every day to get there? And you make it that simple. It's like, I don't know, but today I need to do X, Y, and Z. I need to not drink. I need to go to work. I need to hit the gym, and then go to bed. Like, cool. Those are the hard things I got to do.
What's your daily routine look like?
Um, I'm pretty routine. Yeah, like my habits and routines are they're pretty strict. Like they help me mentally. I do go to the gym a lot. That that I leaned on the gym stuff a lot in that first year. I went to the gym. I would always go to the gym like Friday and Saturday nights. I would go to the 24-hour fitness that was actually open 24 hours because that's when I would. So that's what I would used to be out is drinking, and so that was a good way to kind of recalibrate. Um, but that always just became like it it's the harder way, it's the healthier way to get like a dopamine fix, you know. That gets your that's the real way to feel happy is to get that energy high from exercise. And I really kind of like locked in on that understanding, and I've been using it ever since. But I mean, right now my routine is I've got like 6 workouts I do a week from about from 6 to 7:30 in the morning. I'm with my 2-year-old. Then I go to work. I have a therapist therapy's been a huge part of all this for me. Like I didn't really, I wasn't making good progress on understanding how to be mentally healthy without therapy. Um, and like that's back to the beginning of our conversation about like shit that we as young American fucking idiots like don't think we need. Like therapy's among them, you know. But
I've
it's
had a
like
lot of therapists on this show, man. Yeah, and I mean,
no, it's
even
amazing. Like my
it's
guy is like changed my life for the better. And
that's what they're
I've
here
had a
for,
lot of
dude. Go talk to them. Yeah.
yeah. Like why
You
would
can
you
only
not
know so
get there?
much about yourself. Like even having a podcast like this where you just get to talk to someone, like
Yeah.
shit that you might not even know about yourself comes out.
I know, man.
It's
It's wild.
wild when you start talking.
Oh, 100%. I fully believe in at this point that like the power of vulnerability, like true honesty and self-reflection and being transparent and vulnerable is the way to live. Like it really is. And it's hard, especially if you're not just a young American man, and that's kind of limited and it can impact everybody, but like certainly as a target demographic, like you know, a young 23-year-old, you know, like I described myself in that environment. Yeah, there's not enough vulnerability there. So like the 1 in 5, you know, people in those communities who are struggling with mental illness, like they're not all talking about it. That's for sure. You know, and the ones that are gonna do they're gonna do a lot better because they're taking that hard step. And so like therapy's a huge piece of it, and it's expensive and it's not necessarily easy to access. But if there's the opportunity to get it, it definitely has been an essential ingredient for me. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So like the hardest thing that I would deal with is boredom. Like if I wasn't doing anything, man, like I would just look for something to use.
Yeah,
Like you have to keep your mind occupied. Fucking
yeah.
have to. Find something you like, enjoy, have hobbies, work out like you're saying. I like to live
Hmm.
a healthy lifestyle, so I'm about diet and
Yeah.
running is a good one. That just frees my mind. But there's moments in the day where like you'll come home and I live by myself, so I get to see my kid every couple of days. So I just have like these moments of boredom. And
Hmm.
I just recently quit some. Have you ever heard of something called kratom?
No.
Okay, so it's like it's an herbal tea, but it's kind of like an opioid.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was drinking that because I was addicted to opioids, maybe like 7 years ago, and that's what ruined it for me. That's where I fucking lost everything. I lost my wife, my kid. There was like
Wow.
this ultimatum in the driveway, and I was going to hockey, and I had the bottle of pills in my hand, and she's like, "It's either the pills or me." And I fucking got in my car and I fucking drove off to hockey, and that was it. That was a wrap. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
that was real tough. That was real tough.
Wow, man. Thanks for telling me that.
Of course. Yeah, dude. And it's just, you have to go through these experiences to, like, you realize what's important after the fact, but I mean, that's part of being human, I think.
Yeah, and like I wish that we didn't have to go through that, and not everyone does, fortunately. But I don't know, man. I mean, I'm sure you feel this, and like every day I feel like I could fucking cry right now. I could cry every day because of this overwhelming feeling of gratitude I have. Like it blows my mind. Like I just yeah, I get stressed out and like shit happens at work and the fucking Warriors lose and like stuff pisses me off where I'm just in the moment, like not feeling grateful, just feeling frustrated. But like every day, at least a few times, like I'm really able to step back and look at my life with just like such appreciation because none of
Yeah,
it
dude.
almost never happened, you know?
All the other shit is trivial.
Yeah, it looks trivial real quick when you start talking about like that moment you had on the driveway, or me fucking like getting my ass kicked in jail, and you know, 12 years ago, and now being able to have a family and respect for myself, and so yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are gonna hit that same inflection point you did, and the one that I did, and anything that I can do to kind of like I was saying earlier about your friend, just one more voice in that growing community of people who want to help and make the conversation around addiction and mental illness a little bit easier and a little bit more a little bit louder. Like I want to be in that sea of people that are you know there to help, because like when you're in the middle of that shit, like it does not look like there's a way out. It's not like, oh, okay, tomorrow I'll get started on my plan, and then in 10 years I'll have my family and my business and my podcast. Like it doesn't.
Yeah, dude.
There's just
You're in a
none of that.
fucking canoe blindfolded in the ocean, just you don't and the winds are roaring. You don't know
Jesus
what way you're
Christ.
going, you know?
A canoe blindfolded in the ocean is fucking perfect. Thank you for that.
You don't know
Thank you
where
for
you're
that.
going, dude.
I'm like, I have this image right now. I'm seeing that right now. That's perfectly put, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're thinking like one day at a time, let alone thinking about the future. But even if you could, it's just not it's not easy to see a pathway. It's almost impossible to see a pathway out of it. So like the more people that are able to remind someone else that there is one, I think personally is what will help, because we just don't talk about this shit that much. Like if you had like, I don't know, I'm just randomly, if you had like um, fucking diabetes, right? Like there is a community around it. There
Yeah.
are resources. There is medicine. There are like clear steps you can take to help control it, mitigate it, and make sure it doesn't have a negative, profoundly negative impact on your life.
Dude,
Like
fucking
it's
furries have a community.
yeah, they do. They sure do. They have a
I
big
mean,
one. They have a very big community. I know one. It's a big community, and so it's like, so that exists for most things, but for whatever reason, like when it comes to mental health, it's like that's not there in the same way. It's gotten a lot better, but it's not there in the same way, and it really should be, because it's just it's another part of our body that has the same imperfections as all the rest of us, and it should be treated the same way as a condition that has causes and effects and symptoms and cures and treatments and support and like all the normal shit. Um, but we don't often allow ourselves to even touch that. Like I said, 50% of people with mental illness literally never get treatment.
that's insane to me. That's
Yeah,
real
like
fucking crazy. Because
what
we
if
all
like
know how
50% of
serious it is.
people, right? What if 50% of people that broke their leg just like didn't get help?
Right.
I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I use that metaphor like it's sort of cheeky, but like to make the point though, it's like, why wouldn't we? And it's the most important part of our body. Like, why
Yeah. High
wouldn't we
level
get that
point.
help?
I mean,
So yeah, man, I hope, I don't know. I'm proud of you. It's an amazing, you're here 7 years later, and like, look at what you're doing. And it's not happening if you don't kick those pills. There's no doubt about it.
For sure. Got to kick everything, man. I kicked everything and was able to find myself, open my eyes. Like, dude, it's just so much clarity. It's so crazy, dude. It's so crazy. So much clarity, so much joy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just there's not something that's filtering your mind or your existence. This is like who you are. And
Mm-hmm.
it's possible to obtain, you know,
It's
because
it's
like you
it
to me,
is.
like we didn't think it was possible.
No doubt. It is possible to obtain. And like, it's weird also, like how many, it's unfortunate how few people give themselves the opportunity to actually feel that. Like, not everyone's gets to that down and out point that, you and I have touched and have talked about. But like, we get in our own way every day. I mean, you you might not really, it might not come to, I call it like, you hear the term functioning, like, oh, well, he's like a functioning alcoholic. Like, what the fuck does that mean? That means that like he makes it to work on time. Like, what kind of life is that? Like, well, it's not getting in the way of work. Like, really? If he didn't have 4 glasses or 4 beers a night, like he maybe wouldn't have gotten promoted at some point in the last 10 years. Like, there's no way. Like, we get in our own way and put a filter, like you said, filter. We put a filter on ourselves all the time, whether it's like those extra few drinks or
Yeah.
just not letting ourselves get the therapy we need for our fucking temper that we yell at our kids with. It's like never taking care of our bodies and like letting that impact our health. There's
Yeah,
there's
just
all
because
these things that we do.
this dude's mimicking a human being doesn't mean that, you know, like
Right.
those four drinks are obviously they're affecting him in some sort of way.
Yeah. And
Just
it's
because
like,
you can mime what a human looks like doesn't mean you're acting like that you feel like one
right.
mentally.
Yeah. And if you step back and look, of course they're affecting him in some way. There's no way that you can, there's like my feeling on drugs and alcohol is that like there's an equal and opposite relationship with everything. There's nothing's free. You don't get like a great dopamine kick for free.
Oh, for sure.
It's just no way. So if you're like, oh, well, I only have 2 to 4 drinks a night. So, and I don't drive drunk. Like, oh, cool. So you must be like at 100%. Like, no way. You're not in jail, but like, are you giving yourself 100% of
Yeah.
your intelligence and 100% of your passion, 100% of all the shit you have to apply to your life and your work and your family? No, there's just no way.
That's fair to say because there's zero chance your body is recovering at an optimal rate when you have
No.
literal poison in your body,
Yeah.
you know? So shit, man. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up in an hour and 12 minutes, dude. You are the shit. I just want to say thank you for sharing that, man.
Thank you.
That is beautiful. I mean, there's going to be a lot of benefits that the listeners get from this podcast.
I hope so.
Myself, dude, just talking to you. You're articulate, man. You have a good brain on you. So it always shocks me when I speak to someone that's like a critical thinker that did something previously that can just fuck up their like some moments of their life like that. I'm always so shocked of it because
Yeah.
you have a really good brain on you. Like the way you speak, the way you're thinking about things, the way you think about the future, and you're empathetic. It's just it's refreshing that you made it out of that, and now you are able to share your experiences, your thoughts, to the people listening. So thank you for being you, Dave. Appreciate you, man.
I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you for saying all that.
Yeah, dude. How can people reach you? Like, where can they find you? Do you have a book coming out? Because if you don't, you should think about writing one.
Oh, dude, I do. I literally do have a book coming out.
Do you? Yeah,
I
it
do
makes
have a book
sense
coming out. Yes, thank you for asking.
for sure.
And I wasn't even going to mention it, but you gave me the opportunity.
Don't worry,
So,
I'll mention it.
yeah, here's the stuff that I have. I have a book coming out, and it'll be out at the end of this year. And I have a website which mentions the book and has more information. And that website's davidshamszad.com. And that's first name David, last name SHAMSZAD.com. And then I have an Instagram account where some writing samples and some excerpts from the book and some other good stuff is, and that's David at David-Shamszad.
Cool. Yeah, I'll put the links in the description of the podcast, so you guys can just click on it, take you right there.
Yep.
Dog, Dave, I appreciate you, man. Thanks again for stopping by and spending some time and just shooting the shit, dude. That was awesome. I appreciate you, man.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, everyone at home listening, speak up, dude. Use your voice. You have a voice. Use it, all right? You're not going to get ostracized, okay? Use your voice. Email me. Email Dave if you need someone to talk to. We're here. Been through some shit, all right? Let's create a support system of some sort, all right? Love you guys. Peace.